Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healing Our Children 2018 World Summit. I'm Alison Morris, your host, and I want to welcome you to yet another interview. Today, I'm really pleased to have as my guest, Rhonda Lee, who we've been having a lot of fun chatting before we got started here. I know you're going to learn a ton from her. She has been a Reiki master for more than 20 years. She does laughter yoga. She's got all sorts of things going on. And very importantly, for our purposes today, she also taught special education, special needs students in the school system for many years. So she's very familiar with our kids and their issues. And so we're going to have a great time talking today. So welcome, Rhonda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I am so excited about this. It's my favorite topic like ever. So I can't wait to dive in, and forgive me if I get really excited. It's always been a love of mine. I'm very passionate about serving this population, even though I'm no longer in the school system. I think I'm actually at a greater service now than I was then.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it might be helpful. Maybe we could spend a little time just talking about your background working with who you were working with, and then how you discovered Reiki. I think Reiki is a modality that a lot of people have heard of. So I think it's actually fairly well known, but I'm not sure a lot of people know what it is or what it does or how it works or really that much about it. So I would love for us to dive into that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your work, how long you were working with the kids and who, really what kind of population you were working with.
Okay. I was a teacher with a master's degree in low incidence populations. Was after I went back and got my master's, but I taught for 9.5 years, and I taught like outside the academically gifted zone, everyone else. Well, actually, some of mine did delve over into that too. In the early part of my career, for 2.5 years, I served, some of the terms have changed, but I served individuals with mild mental handicaps, learning disabilities, and behavioral and emotional disorders. And I taught in an academic block sort at that point. So they were in, they would change classes within other special ed classes at that point. And so, I did like social studies and English and things like that at that point. Then I changed and took a step into the severely and profoundly handicapped population. And I did that for 6+ years. And those students were with extreme needs. The majority of them were nonverbal. So, sometimes we use sign language and various methods of augmentative communication. I would say students in the autism spectrum graced from one end of my career to the next, because even though if you have a severe and profound mental handicap, you can still have autism as well. So that population is very underserved at the time whenever I was teaching, because once you got into all of the mental disabilities, they just kind of wipe that off the charts, that you could have anything else, but you absolutely can. That encapsulated students. Some of them were non-ambulatory. It was just a myriad of things. And a lot of times in this population, it's not necessarily genetics that come into play as to how my students ended up. I had students that, parents claimed even back then that they had vaccine injuries and they were normal until, they seized their way into severe mental handicaps and autism. And that's from parents. That's, not my words, but that's, so I had, it just graced all the way across the board. It wasn't not, plus I would have children that did have genetic disabilities, but then I also had children that had traumatic brain injuries. So I worked with TBIs. Sometimes they stemmed from accidents, sometimes from abuse. It was just a wide and diverse population.
and at this point, again, you were fully in the school system, so you were not providing therapies to them. You were trying to provide education to them, and then as best you could.
Love and protection is all I cared about, and the rest was gravy, honestly. You know,
Okay.
my kids were cared for when they were with me. And that was more important, that they had a safety net from one end of the spectrum to the other as far as the educational needs. You know, if you're working on self-feeding, which we did, or if you are working on learning how to read, first and foremost, and I told every parent that ever cared to show up at a meeting, is that I was there to love and nurture their child first and foremost. And, you know, and the rest is gravy, because they thrive whenever they feel safe and secure.
Sure. No, and that's a huge part, because so many of the kids of the families who are watching, that's a huge part of what's missing is, you know, through early trauma, in utero stress, whatever, their sense of safety has been compromised from a very early time, and they're hypervigilant. They're always looking for danger. They're on edge. You know, their nervous systems are just on high alert at all times. So that's a key thing. And then you ended up having a health crisis, right? Due to literally a toxic environment in the school.
Absolutely.
With mold, right? So
yeah, and you know, and I cannot prove that, because the school system would never test the black molds that were growing in my room. But yeah, it was just I'm not a fan of a lot of the public institutions. If you have chemical sensitivities, if you have sensitivities to molds, because that stuff is present, and you're just, you know, being on, you know, every day, it's just all over you, you know,
right.
all day. So I think all of that greatly affected my health. And in my early years of teaching, you know, well, let's be honest, nobody really wanted my kids around. So I'm basically in a kind of like a closet half of a room, and stuff is falling down from the ceiling all day long. I'm seeing stuff trickling, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even know what.
Hope it's not asbestos, right?
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. Oh Lord. Okay.
You know, so I would be on the phone, you know, with the superintendent and things like that. But you know.
So, and you were sick for a long time before it was determined that you had an autoimmune condition. And I know you went through just a ton of things to figure out what was wrong, why you felt the way you did. Is that how you discovered Reiki then? Was through your own illness?
Actually, no. I discovered it because I love my kids so much. My kids, when I say my kids, I mean my students, but they were my kids. And literally books were falling off the bookshelf. And I am an avid researcher, and I spent all my time in grad school whenever I was in grad school for special education, but all of my time was spent doing research in the med school library. And anyway, I'd always been familiar, because I grew up in a household that, you know, we didn't have a term for energy work or whatever, but I was always familiar with that to some extent. And so I was looking, I was thinking about, and I think it was probably during my research for my thesis proposal, that I was just thinking of different modalities and stuff that would serve my kids. And I was looking into like hands-on healing. Now, I know I can't do anything like that in the school system, but I just hungry for the knowledge of anything that somebody can do.
Yeah.
So, you know, because my hands are tied, you can't do stuff like that in the school system. So I was looking at I think the term, you know, that I think a lot of nurses use it, just hands-on healing, meaning, you know, touch for health kind of sort of thing. And literally, I'm walking through bookstores, and that thought is in my mind, and books start falling off the shelf. Just literally walking down a shelf, and boom, a book falls off. And so that is where I kind of got the intro to Reiki. A good friend of mine who was an occupational therapist and worked with a lot of my kids. Actually, she and I trained for our Reiki master together, all of our Reiki training together. And we would have these discussions, and you know, and that popped up too with her. And so we went and got trained. Like immediately was like, we got to go do this. And so I did that with a friend of mine that, you know, served population, was aware, in the hopes that it would educate me for things I could possibly do outside of the school system at that point. that's where I kind of went with that. So it was all small, not for me, but because I
Oh,
love my
for them.
kids. I wanted to
Okay.
do it for my kids, you know.
Well, so lead us through a little bit about Reiki. What is it? Where did it come from? What's the goal of Reiki? What happens when somebody gets Reiki, receives it?
Oh, I love Reiki. It's a very gentle and non-evasive energy system. And it's Japanese in origin. And basically, the belief system behind it is that in a relaxed state, the body can do what it needs to do for itself, whether it be like heal itself, calm itself, center itself. If you can get to that relaxed state, you know, the body can do what it needs to do. So I'm all about the body. I mean, your body works for you in amazing ways. And so there's different ways that Reiki can be done. It can be done one-on-one with you working with a practitioner. And for a while I did have, I took clients in a massage therapy office, and you don't have to touch people or anything like that. It's no massage or anything like that involved. So it's a beautiful thing that, people that are not massage therapists or do hands-on work for people can actually treat you with Reiki. However, a lot of nurses like to get trained, which I think is very appropriate. And I see a lot more educators going into that system just because they can utilize it within themselves in their environment, in their classrooms, without it being invasive, without without treating kids, but, energetically within their own energy system so that they can provide for their students in an uplifting way. So that's I think of it as like a stress management. And you can also do it through distance as well, because energy travels, across time, space, whatever. It's still that energy. And like I said, I've actually worked with quite a few students, well, not students, but children, clients in this population through Skype. I've done that. And sometimes it'll be one-on-one on Skype, and I will talk with someone and, just say, hey, why don't you just relax and I'm just gonna, do my thing, and I'm gonna hold this energy container for you, or this space for you. And kids kind of get it better than adults do, to be quite honest. They're like, oh, okay. So you're gonna do that. But I think using it, self-use first helps to use it with the population, or for those people that are in an environment. Like, I went and got trained, but I couldn't do that with my kids, but I could do it on me, and it would help present a better portion of me to help my students. So it's just simply a relaxation system. You don't have to do anything except receive whenever you get a Reiki treatment. So a lot of people are intimidated by that, but I will say a lot of people I've come across such a diverse population, a lot of people that are afraid of massage, because there are some people that are afraid and very uncomfortable with getting a massage therapy treatment because they don't want to remove article of clothing. They don't want to be touched. Perfect for Reiki, because we don't even have to be together. There's nobody being hypnotized or anything like that. It's just you allowing energy that just comes from an infinite source around us that already exists to be used for the highest purpose for yourself. I've seen miracles happen, when you just get out of the way and let things go on.
Yeah. So before we get into some of those examples, because I'd love to hear some stories that if you can share about, the sort of effects of it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to follow up a little bit on the sort of how a treatment works. So you said you work with people on Skype. Is it necessary to have a sort of a face-to-face connection with somebody, or can it be done, say, while a child is sleeping?
It can absolutely be done. And there does not have to be a connection. I will tell you the reason why I do the connection is because I find that my clients are more open during that time frame to receiving. It's because it's like an anchor. Like I could work and it doesn't matter, you know, if somebody's asleep, if they're on the job or whatever they're doing. But whenever I have people pin down that time frame with me, they make more of a connection. And I found that they are just more open and to receiving because they know that's their time slot. It's not like some random time slot that might happen. They know what's going to go on then.
Okay.
And so a lot of times, just the connection between us talking for a few minutes, and because usually this is how a Reiki session goes for me through Skype or Zoom. I'll connect with the person, we'll talk for a minute, and then I cut the screens so we're no longer looking at each other. They can lay down, whatever. Sometimes I play music on my end that they can listen to, or if there's something else that they like to, and then all they have to do is just be there. But they know that we're connected during that time, and I find that they just receive. They're much more perceptive to what they're receiving. Not that they receive more, but they're more perceptive to the things that are going on. And so then I'll get comments. I'm like, oh, I felt like if someone was like brushing my hair, or I felt warmth, or I felt at peace. It's just that it's like an anchor to help them acknowledge what's going on in their system. And and I tell everybody, you don't have to feel anything. Doesn't matter if you feel anything. It's going to work. Stuff is
that was my next question, because I've always been sort of disappointed. I don't know how many Reiki sessions I've had, and I am actually attuned myself to level 1 Reiki, and I, other than just feeling sort of relaxed, I don't feel a thing. And I know other people, they get all these sensations, memories come up. They might feel like, again, like a warmth in a specific part of their body, like all these things. And I'm always like, darn. I don't. And then the person working on me will say, oh, that was such a great session and all these things happened. And I'm like clueless. So what is it? It's a wide range then for the people that you work on about what they perceive, what they feel.
You don't have to feel anything. It just works. And I'll tell you, I do it. And I find another really great thing that I do, and I usually do this one in live events, is I'm also a laughter yoga leader, and I have combined the two, and I find that people are incredibly receptive. If we do like a laughter yoga session first, and that kind of gets a lot of energy out of your system, and you get more relaxed because you're taking in all that oxygen through the breathing that you're doing, laughing. And then I let everybody just lay down and relax. And on their mats, and then I just kind of do like Reiki for the entire group. And I find people are really receptive. Some people just need to get excess energies out of the way first, and I find that people are very receptive when they come to that. But there's all kinds of ways that you can that you can come around that method of whether somebody's feeling something or not feeling something. And I like to take people off the hook too, because I think sometimes people will get a comment like they just are trying so hard because they want to feel so much that it's like, oh, that you can't force it. And so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you feel anything. It's still happening. You might see the results now, or you might see the results in a week, or something, or like a crisis situation or something may come up 3 weeks down the road, and you'll find that you've handled it a little differently, and you don't know how or why. That's because those results have traveled with you, and that's where you're seeing the outcome. So there's just it's an infinite possibilities as to how someone can see or perceive it. Infinite. And it's as individual as we are, unique people too as well. I talk with my hands.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. So some people are likely skeptical listening to that and saying, well, sure, it's easy to attribute that to the Reiki treatment. That could have been anything. And I'm wondering if you have any examples that you could share of again, some maybe more immediate effects, and what might be in at least the realm of possibility of what people might expect to see either for themselves or for their kids. Does this last a week, a day? Do you have to have like 20 Reiki sessions to, once a week for a year? Or, what are we looking at? Or is this sort of an occasional tune-up kind of thing? How does that all work?
Oh, well, that is just as varied again as we are individuals.
Okay.
Because everyone has got their particular life path, and I don't feel like that we can interject on what somebody is going to be going through on their life. So that's, like I said, it's not me at all. It's them, and the session is always about them, and it's always led by them. I let my clients lead, and if they feel, they feel that they want to try and explore more sessions, or they feel they want to do a series or whatever, I let it lead with that. I really do. I don't, one thing I very much do not ever do is like try to project onto people that they have to have certain external things that, like you need to have 12 treatments before you'll feel this. I would never do that. I'm just a firm believer in being client led. And I find that children are much more honest about it. As adults, I think we start to rationalize and put in my, well, if I had it like 12 times, then, maybe no, it's how you feel. And a one-time session may be like just the medicine you needed. And I'm using the term medicine loosely, but, just what you needed, that fix for that day. And, or you may find, I want to try that again, or I just wonder if I can keep improving. For me personally, I have had a cumulative effect of 20 years. It has helped me. I have overcome things that, doctors told me that I wouldn't. And I attribute it to, a lot of things to Reiki. I've been told I wouldn't be able to overcome some things. So I believe in the power of ki. It's just part of Reiki. It's life force energy. I study it from every aspect because, that energy is what is pervasive. It's present everywhere. And that's what that spark that keeps us alive and keeps us in connection, and without trying to sound too esoteric with it. So for me, I'm a person that I had cumulative benefits. It helped me to overcome, bulging disc issues that I was told I was going to have surgery for, completely healed, gone, nothing, and I attribute it to that. And so for some people, they may want that, but I hate to sound very vague on that for you, but I'm not a person, that's going to tell somebody you're going to have 12 sessions before this happens. That's completely client led. That's completely client led. If you feel that one session did you great and you want to try it again, maybe at another time, then that's good. If you feel you want it every single day, and I do have clients that come to me every single day. I have some that I treat, I set aside blocks of time, and there are some that are going through enormous shifts and things in their life or some trauma or whatever, and they just want it every day. And we have a session every day for like 10 days. That happens. So it's completely client led. How do you feel it? Usually people that have had the experience before are the ones that, they've already had an experience with Reiki. They acknowledge it. They're the ones that come back to me and like, can I get it every day for 10 days? So I need a 10-day section. Let's just do it every day. And so we do.
And how long generally does a Reiki session last? And does that differ between children and adults?
Children go faster. I'm just going to be honest. I feel that children are just much more receptive a lot of times, and it's just their energy's fast. And I have found that their sessions go faster. Usually, I do Reiki sessions anywhere from a 15-minute span to an hour span. After an hour, that's just enough. That's enough juice, we let go. So it can be anywhere, between that. Sometimes, like I said, some people that want it every day, they'll get like a 15-minute treatment with me every day, or a 30-minute treatment every day if they're going through, and I usually cap that off at about 10 days and then let people assimilate. But usually for a general first treatment, I go about a half hour, and then we can judge from there. I just don't like to put, any type of specific measurements on it, because I believe you are the person that is the best judgment of, your life, your feeling, how you feel. So we'll do one session and we'll see,
And is it that, are you as the practitioner sensing the energy of the person that you are sending the Reiki to? Is that what you're basing like the length of the session on, or whether they're sort of, I mean, you've just told me you listen to them, but you're also making judgments yourself about sort of what they need or what's enough for them. And how does that work? What do you tune into?
I mean, I have some ideas, but I still don't like to project that. Sometimes I'll be like, maybe if they tried another session or another hour here, another there. I just don't like to push it. It's just not within my framework of who I am. I like for people to come to that judgment themselves. So am I sensing things in their energy? Absolutely, because I've been trained to feel that. And plus I was also kind of born that way too. So yeah, I do, but I still hesitate to like try to push extra on people. I want people to take in what they can and digest it. And because I first and foremost, I have to honor you and your body and your journey as to what you feel like is best for you. So, I mean, I'm completely putting the ball, in your court, so to speak. I just think that's the best way to honor somebody. So.
Okay, sure. No, that's fair. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more. Well, so parents are often in the situation where they're trying to choose among different modalities. Where can they get sort of the most bang for their therapeutic buck, so to speak? You're familiar with that, probably.
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, some parents have gone so far as to get certified or get trained themselves in different modalities so that they can deliver it to their children or to themselves. Because of course, we as parents need a lot of this help because our bodies are out of whack. Our emotions are all over the place. We're out of balance too. Even if we weren't before our kids, they have a way of bringing that out, right? So I wonder, is it as effective when you do Reiki on yourself, or do we get in our own way enough that it's generally better if other people are offering it to you instead?
Oh, that's a good one. I love that question. It actually is kind of like a double-edged sword. I mean, it is just as good. It's the energy. It doesn't matter. It's still going. If you're working and you're doing a self-treatment, it's still going to work, period. However, I think sometimes people actually are more receptive whenever they go to someone else and they can let that down and not like the monkey chatter and the nitpick and all that kind of thing. Well, did I do it right? Or I'm not accepting it right for myself, or, or my favorite, this is my favorite one, because I want people to receive whenever and I work with a lot of other energy workers and Reiki practitioners. And one I've gotten frequently is like, well, what if I'm going to send to you and try to treat you while you're treating me? And I'm like, no, this is for you. So, we that's part of that monkey chatter thing that we do. So, I mean, absolutely do. It's the energy. You can't stop it. It's just the way it is. It exists, period, but sometimes whether or not how we choose to accept it from ourselves. Some people are great with that. Some people are great with it and they can accept it from themselves, and other people are going to pick themselves apart. And it's an individual personality thing. And so, and plus, we are here to be together and to lean on each other in this life. And so some people are just too isolated. And if you're only treating yourself all the time and you have that isolation, then I would say by all means, it's good. We're here to be together and to work together in this life. That's what, we show up, we're here together. And, some people have strengths and other things. And it's why we work and do things together, and we're stronger together, and some people just, that's too much and they just want to work for themselves, and that's fine. Energies, it's all the same. It's all the same.
So here's a question for you, because it's puzzled me a little bit about Reiki, and I think it might be one of the reasons why I didn't continue with the training myself. Is this concept, right, that you're sort of channeling, so to speak, life energy, but that you need these attunements before you're sort of the appropriate vehicle for it to flow through you. But there are a lot of other modalities that don't require that step. And I know in Reiki too, there's different lineages of trainers going back to sort of the original teachers of this, and different people get trained in different types of, there's different types of Reiki from different parts of the world too. And so, there's a little, I don't want to call it politics, but, there's a structure in the Reiki history. But it's always given me pause a little bit, the idea that we're not all innately capable of absorbing and running this energy ourselves, and that we need this attunement process, which is sort of an initiation into the Reiki line. I don't know, and I don't mean to spring this on you because we weren't chat about this before, that I would throw this at you, but
do you want to go? Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to break one thing. I don't know what system that you have been trained in or anything like that, but this is my feelings on that. Well, when you're training in a particular system, yes, there's attunements and there's that ladder and all of that. Traditionally, Reiki went from 0 to Reiki master. There was not level 1, 2, 3 master and all that. That did not exist in the initial from Dr. Usui. However, for you to be someone that is receiving energy work, you don't need to have any type of attunement so that you can receive from somebody giving you Reiki. Now we're going to break it down a little bit further. We're talking about, life force energy and where it comes from and all of that. We're all energetic beings. It makes up all of us. Okay. So we're going to step outside of any energy system whatsoever, Reiki, any of the others, polarity, all that off the table. You know how you feel whenever, like a mother's touch is just better than anything else. Well, that's that energy. That's that mother energy. And you can receive your mom's touch if she's soothing you, or somebody that you love, or if you are always referred to in some of my teachings as, a child, like your brain. Sometimes I kind of dissect that. It's being this precious baby. If you've had a child, if you're a parent, and that love that you feel for this precious being, and that's an energy connection, that bond, that precious touch. Well, and you know how they respond to your love. Well, that's that energetic connection. You don't have to have any kind of attunement for that.
Right.
At all. That's, so as far as life force energy or, all of that, no, everybody responds to that. I've seen people light up the room. That's why, even when I was working with students that were nonverbal, I told you, first and foremost, my most important thing was that my kids felt loved and nurtured. That was them responding to that energy. Some of my kids went through some severely, horrifically abusive situations, especially if you're nonverbal, because you can't tell on anybody. Okay. So, they went through some horrible things and that I'm not even going to mention. And, my whole thing is that they came in, they're still the energy of my classroom, as that is that energetic container, just to put a label on it. And they respond to that. Everybody responded to that. People would come in, and I always had music is vibration. Vibration is energy. I always had music going, soothing music going, to try to put them in that state when they walked in the door. Period. That was more important to me than anything else. I don't care what anybody else says. My kids had to feel protected and loved. And that's that love is an energy, so you don't have to have an attunement. It's your birthright. You're born, into this life ready, to receive that. We all have our different paths about going that, but you don't have to have anything special like, oh, okay, bing. Now it's okay for you to receive, a loving hug, or bing, it's okay for you to receive, the vibration of being in a loving, supportive environment. So that I can go further down that, and that may not even be where you're going. But that's stepping outside the education, And on the flip side, I'm very pro people being very professional. Those people that are in energy work and things like that, because sometimes I think it got like a really, in the earlier years, maybe a bad rap from someone that didn't handle it in a very professional manner, or made it seem too, esoteric, or that you can only certain people can achieve this, and that is just totally not true. What one person can achieve, everyone else can achieve. We're all in this together. You can do the same thing anybody else has done. So I don't believe in that type of exclusiveness, but I do believe in a proper protocol when you're looking into training in a modality, because I've done a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things just kind of thrown together, and then I've seen some things that were really, really thoughtfully put together as well. And I think sometimes some systems, we lose the translation coming into the Western mindset that wants everything immediately, and sometimes you need to train in certain things. There are other systems that I've worked on that I've trained for many, many, many years and things, and and that's not even getting into the whole scope of all of that. So I hope that that kind of
no, that helps. Thank you. Can we go back then maybe to some of the stories about some of the children that you've helped? So if parents are sort of thinking, well, okay, this might make sense, but like, how might this actually affect my child's behavior or their sleep patterns, or whether they're willing to take supplements, or maybe they won't have so many outbursts, or, fall into tantrums or rages, or be so violent, or, what are some of the possible things that folks might see, or that you've had clients experience?
Okay, well, I cannot give away a whole lot of details due to the privacy of my clients, but have I worked on children? Absolutely. And have I done it through Skype? Absolutely. I've had some really fun sessions. A lot of times the kids think we're just like hanging out talking, and try to make it as comfortable for them as possible. So sometimes we might just have a conversation. Hey, tell me about your guinea pig. I have a guinea pig too, and that's just given me an open door into allowing this. So I can still do Reiki without it being like very structured. Kids don't need as much structure. It's like lay down flat, breathe through your nose. They don't really need that, and they're whereas adults, sometimes we think it's not happening if we're not very structured. So I'm going to say something, and it's not a plug for my product, but I am going to mention it because you're asking about sleeping patterns and stuff like that, which I've seen that has actually, to me, been even better for my children clients than actual Reiki. And that's my product, Spirit Mist Smokeless Smudge, is right there, and I'll talk about that. But this is not a sales thing. I just want to get into physical anchors of things. But yeah, I have worked with children, and so sometimes we'll talk. We'll be on camera together, and we'll talk, and that allows the opportunity to exchange. Or sometimes we'll play little games. I'm trying to think. I want to talk about. I just don't want to give away private information, but and because the results speak for themselves. As sometimes kids will be like, "Oh, I want to talk to Miss Rhonda again." I felt usually what I get is a more of an energetic, happier vibe or whatever, or a release as far as like purging is the feedback that I get from the children that I've worked with. And now as far as sleep goes, I've had much more positive results because they have a physical anchor in holding my product, Spirit Mist Smokeless Smudge, which helps clear the energy. There's a bajillion things you can do. You don't have to buy my product to clear your energy. Lots of things you can do. But sometimes having a physical anchor, like it clicks in your mind that that's what's going on at the time. So like a child will have like, favorite stuffed animals or things like that. That's soothing. That's a physical anchor that I'm going to relax and hold my stuffed bunny rabbit. That's your anchor. You're like, I'm going to use this. This is my anchor, my soothing chi that I have. And I know that I have this. And so it gets my body ready for whatever that's going to happen. you know, that it's gonna happen. Now I'm gonna be relaxed when I drink, you know, chamomile tea. So physical anchors are something I'm a big fan of. Because children respond to that when they have something tactile that they can hold, touch, identify with. And so, you know, sometimes we'll work through something like that in a Reiki session, and I'll say, oh, you know, that, like, I've gotten this, I can see this in my big Himalayan salt rock. So, like, say they have something in their room, I'm like, yeah, you can look at that and focus on that. And whenever you just look at that, you know, it'll help remind you that whenever you're agitated, that you can count to 10 and focus on this and let let those feelings disperse and go away. So, I mean, it's just wide and varied. I don't really feel like I'm at liberty to share a whole lot of things that happen with kids, but you know, have I had quite a few children? Yes, you know, and I've worked with a lot with ADHD and anxiety, and the biggest thing that I work with is sleep issues, but that is stepping outside of Reiki and going into having like a physical product, which, you know, I'm just mentioning that there's a lot of other things, you know, a lot of other things that you can do. It's just fast. We have to open up the can and see what we have to work with, and see what responds, you know, what someone resonates with, because not everyone's going to resonate with the same thing. And I don't like, you know, again, I don't like to force, you have to have this, you must do this. That goes against someone having that personal strength. And kids are really good to tell you, to let you know what they, you know, think is a strong, you know, receptor for them and what isn't. I like chocolate. I really do not like vanilla. Okay, you know, now we can focus on chocolate. All right, what can that be that, you know, we use as you know, I look at a picture of a candy bar and I think I'm going to relax. I'm just throwing crazy stuff out there, but you know, just to say that I believe in being child led. And not, I find that the biggest frustration factor for working with families and working with children is, and in fact, you know, I just was with a big session with this earlier today, so it's really fresh in my mind, is that, you know, as we as parents or educators, we think we know the absolute best of what you need to do this, and I'm gonna, you know, I want you to try this, and you're gonna do it this way. And that just builds a resistance that doesn't need to be there. And that's why I like to let the children lead. Now, I mean, just stepped out of a huge conversation with this morning. So it's really fresh on my mind. But I've always liked to be child-led. You know, did you like that? Does this work? Does this make you feel this way? Do you think you need to do this again? Because you know, it's the strength of self that we want to cultivate within them. We want them to learn what works for them. It's their own coping mechanism as they grow, and you have to allow them to explore, you know. And so Reiki made me nothing to one child. They'd be like, man, another child, they might realize different things. So I don't believe in forcing. It just goes against
Right.
it. I don't like breaking anybody's spirit. I've had too many children with broken spirits come to me, and that's just off the plate for me. I won't do it.
Well, and I mean, I've had some experience with that too, trying to get through a program that is supposed to be super helpful and was in many respects, but getting my child to do it produced some excruciating arguments and awful episodes that I think in some ways were more damaging than
absolutely.
They offset the otherwise the healing properties of what we were trying to do. So the overall intentions were good, but the immediate intention, which is get this done now, just totally undermined
everything. It does, and it does, you know, and it's a trial and error, you know. We're learning with each child is unique. And, you know, I've had so many fried and frustrated parents, you know, when I was teaching, I listened to everything that every parent ever, you know, said to me. And then working with clients after that, everything they've ever said to me. and sometimes I feel like just me being there for them to just say it and get it off their chest has done more. And I'm like, I appreciate you and all that, but I don't want to ever go into a battle of the wills or a struggle of the wills, because there are a multitude of paths to get to, a result that you want. Just because one isn't working, we just keep going, and we keep trying, and we keep experimenting. That's like saying everybody has to have green juice at 10:15 a.m. every morning, or you're going to be, in bad shape. And that's not true. Some people can't do that. We're all unique. And then trying to force somebody to fit into that. And a lot of times these kids, these beautiful souls, they're here, and we're trying to make them fit into a mold that doesn't work. So you've got to let them lead. You've got to get feedback, and it's not easy, and it's not pretty. I've had students. I had one that screamed to the top of their lungs every day for 3 days. I mean, for 3 years straight, nonstop. Just would never. You could never. Find things. We had to do all kinds of stuff to get to what was that happy point, so that they could, because if you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow if it's always a resistance in the way. So do I think Reiki's great? It's fantastic. Does it work? Absolutely. But if the kids don't feel led to it, I would never say you're going to have to force your child at 10:15 a.m. to have a Reiki session. That's just wrong. If the kids don't resonate with it, they don't resonate with it. Does it work? Absolutely.
So let me ask you this: how much have you worked with parents, and then they've reported better relationship with their child because their energy has improved?
a lot. Yeah, because it is hard work being a parent. Period. Under the most perfect circumstances, it's not an easy job, and I just say, and I'm guilty too. I'll tell the truth. We all we pick ourselves apart. Oh, I should do this better. I didn't do that right. Oh, I'm a bad parent. So I think working with parents, and getting that fried frustration out of the way, letting parents relax, letting them have that moment to, connect within themselves and let energy go wherever it is, whatever type of stuff. I work with a lot of caregivers too. And so, of course, parents, the ultimate caregiver, and you get caregiver burnout. And it's actually another one of my specialty areas. I've taught stress management workshops for 20 years. And, it's that caregiver burnout. When you get a chance to feed yourself, then you're going to see things differently with your child. You'll see a different path with your child, or you might be more receptive to, what your child says. I mean, just because, the guru said you have to do this and it's going to have to be done, or it's not going to work for you, taking all that down and letting the child be their own guru and lead. And then if parents can, release some anxiety about how they're doing things, whether they're doing things right, wrong, or whatever, is tremendous. I loop it in all the caregivers. It's an enormous undertaking, on a good day, to step into this responsibility. And I see so many parents are so hard on themselves. And a lot of times it feels like, I got to go to battle for my kid. I got to go fight again for my kid. So there's a lot of that defensiveness too. And I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, when I was in the education system, I sided with the parent. I didn't sit there and go, you need to do this with your kid, blah, 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 because that's just, who knows your kid better than you, and your child, ultimately, who knows them better than themselves? So let's see what they think, where they feel, where does the parent feel? So I've done the advocating thing and everything like that. I have fought the system to keep children with me, that I thought it was the best and most appropriate education, even though, sometimes they're like, well, let's just dump them off somewhere else, because sometimes, they want to dump kids, and I'm not into that. So I'll just go right down the whole special ed career thing. But, I feel like if parents are heard and witnessed, and given that opportunity for healing, for energy, for stress relief, for all the above for themselves, it trickles down tremendously. So, I always was one to go right straight to the parents. How do you feel about this? What do you think? So you want me to only do this and try this? Okay, we'll do it. You see they're doing that at home. Okay, we'll try this at school. We'll do whatever. The parents need to be heard. They don't need to feel like there's always a battle. And they do. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you probably every parent that is listening to this has probably said, I have to go to battle with a doctor. I have to go to battle with the education system. And so you're living with that weight on your shoulder all the time.
Well, and
then take care of your child after that.
Yeah, and I've talked some with others in past years too, just that vocabulary of the battle, or, a lot of people think of themselves, and I have in the past thought of myself as a warrior mom.
Yes.
And that terminology, there's some power to that, which is good. It's empowering, but it also contributes to the forcing, to the fighting, to the
yes.
And I've struggled I've struggled with those words, and whether they also maybe have the wrong energy to them. That again, it's too much of the resistance and not enough of the welcoming what we want instead of pushing away what we don't want. Mm-hmm. And so which is one of the things, sort of getting back to the Reiki, that I think is so lovely about the Reiki, because it is welcoming in. It's welcoming in the good, the clean, the fresh, the healthy, the love, all those things, and then allowing the body to sort of take care of itself. So it's not injecting something. It's not swallowing a pill. It's not fixing things from the outside, but sort of,
it's the wisdom within yourself, and you're just allowing it to do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
It's all about you. So I am, I'm just one of those people. I'm not one that says, that likes to push it, because your body and your being, you have it there. You just need the opportunity, and I can assist you with that opportunity of tapping into it, but you're the one that does it. It's not me. And, you're inviting in the opportunity to have this energy,
Well, and so now you mentioned earlier that you think that your own Reiki treatments on yourself helped literally your spine to repair itself.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a very physical thing, not just I feel better, I'm less stressed.
Oh no, I've lived miracles.
But because a lot of these kids, they have any number of issues, leaky gut, or they've got maybe infections or parasites, or whatever thing that you could test for, or x-ray for, or do an MRI for, whatever, a brain scan for. They're physical things, really tangible. And yet you're saying that Reiki can also assist in allowing your body to take care of those things as well.
Well, I will say I'm not a doctor, so I'll go ahead and cover myself with that first and foremost. I am not a doctor, so I cannot say that you will have X, Y, Z results. But I can tell you that your body is wise beyond our comprehension of it. I can tell you that when you allow your body to be in that state of receiving, that things can shift for itself. I've seen it. I've lived it. So it's just an act of open yourself up to the possibilities. Now that, and on the flip side, I don't like to see people feel like they, well, I didn't get a healing from my leaky gut from that one Reiki treatment. That might not be, the path. That might be that you can better cope with, leaky gut until you come to another another way of dealing with that issue. So again, I don't do, just a disclaimer, say, hey, but for me, and have I seen it with other, I've seen tremendous things happen. I really, really have. And I've witnessed, many amazing, extraordinary things in myself. But I just can't put parameters on it.
No, and that's fair. And yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot that, Reiki cures all these things or whatever, but just to get people thinking along the lines that we're not just talking about calming down, relaxing. I mean, we're talking about at least potentially some more profound things. Now, here's a question, and then I got to pay attention to our time. You're going to say this depends, I'm sure, but the concept of parents talking with their children about how wise their bodies are, is that something that you would advise, or do you think, is it helpful for kids to sort of, or do they know that anyway, even if they don't know it? Maybe their prefrontal cortex knows it, but somewhere they know it already, or does that put too much pressure on people? Like, oh, I should be healing myself. I know I can heal myself, and like, oh, I haven't healed myself today. It's never going to happen. I must be a failure at this healing thing.
And I don't believe in failure. So everything, first and foremost, failure doesn't exist. You're just gathering data. You're just gathering data. Okay, so we might need to tweak this. That didn't have the result I was expecting, so I gathered data to go to the next thing. So I'm going to just wipe failure off the table right now, because I've seen too many people beat themselves to death with it. Literally, I failed, because I didn't heal myself. Yeah. So yeah, I do not, and I'm not trying to be wishy-washy, but I just do not. I've just seen so much of people. And I get Reiki masters themselves that are my clients that come to me, and I didn't get to this point. So let me just beat myself down, and that accomplishes nothing, and that closes you down so that you can't receive from further. So as far as like parents, I and again, actually worked through one of this topic and not this again this morning with, parents trying to like maybe over inject too much stuff onto their child, you're just it just puts up a wall. It's an unnecessary wall. You don't even need to go there.
Okay.
If the child comes to you and they have questions, then I am all about openly discussing every bit of it. With your body and I'm about planting positive seeds, and empowering people, and so, you can do this. You've got this wisdom within you, empower, but don't dissect it down. So, I just think it puts up resistance. I've seen it too much. I've seen the resistance. Oh, well, I didn't do that right because, my knee is still bruised,
Right.
So there's evidence, so I
put that in the fail column then. Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. I just wanted to raise that because I know some people, well, and I've considered this too. And I've probably done too much of it. You learn something and it's like, oh, you want to go tell your kid about it, but it actually, it's too much often for them. And they don't have the same understanding of it maybe as you do. Mm-hmm. But in any case, two things before I know we need to wrap up. So if people are interested in working with you for Reiki, or maybe if now you're in North Carolina, do you travel to do laughter yoga too?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've done events from one coast to the next. So, yes.
Okay. So, but I think we were saying that right now you don't have Reiki sessions actually listed on your website, but
I took them down because I was just overwhelmed with a lot. But you can contact me directly. through my website. It's Rhonda at infusionoflife.com, and I'll give you that information. But underneath that, I had to take the services down because I just had such, I couldn't keep up. There's so much going on. I've been requested for a lot of things. My energies are everywhere right now. So yes, I do actively do sessions. And so if you're interested, just send me an email, and we can communicate and discuss options and stuff like that. And I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I did have it up. I had to take it down because it just had so much.
And would you have any tips for people who might want to find a Reiki practitioner? Look around and see. I don't know if there's like a national database of Reiki people.
There is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Is there a level of training that you would suggest, like, Reiki master or bust? Or do you think it's, or again, as with all of these things, just trust your intuition. If you sort of feel a connection with somebody and you think that they would work well with you or your kid,
that's me. That's me. Not everyone has, every Reiki practitioner has to be a Reiki master. That was my choice because I wanted to teach it, and I do teach it. So there is a database. I can give you the link for that. But that is for the school that I have gone through. I believe it's just Reiki.org, but I'll get the direct link. And so I have trained in the Usui line, the lineage of Dr. Usui, who created, loosely using that word, created, but so I have been trained that way. So I've gone through a very exact protocol. So I can get that link if someone, and so these people have been trained very similar to me. And it is who you feel called to, honestly. If you have a connection, that is going to make all the difference in the world. If somebody, creeps you out for something, then that's not the person you need to work with at all. So I can give you that link and you can share it. People can feel free to contact me, and I can actually point in directions to, because I have friends all over, and could make a recommendation of someone that they may want to work with.